The party that has always said you should be proud of who and what you are and you should go by the name that you were given suddenly wants the Gulf of Mexico to identify as the Gulf of America. That's rich. It's going to cost us a fucking fortune. Although I do believe that you can identify as whatever you want to identify, this will be one of the times that I dead name the fuck out of something. And so will the whole world. So every penny we spend doing this is going to just be wasted when he could be focusing on getting you your cheaper eggs. This isn't something where incoming President Kumquat can just take out his black Sharpie and draw on a map and think it's done. This is an extraordinarily expensive endeavor. For starters, we don't own the Gulf of Mexico. No matter how many times people try to tell you, it is a shared space between multiple countries. Technically we do own, or we have territory rights over the first 12 nautical miles that stretch out from our own land. So from that farthest tip down of Texas all the way around to the furthest tip of Florida, we own 12 miles off of our land. Otherwise, it is basically a shared space that no one has full claim to. Do we use it the most? Yeah, probably. I think that's a fair statement. Are we the ones using it most often for commercial fishing and for oil drilling? Yeah, you bet. We do most of the work out there. It's not like we're volunteering our time to go out there and clean up the water for the sake of everybody else. We're not. Everything we do out there is commercialized for our own benefit. You see, for us to officially declare a name of something, it needs to go through a congressional act, or at least there needs to be funding to be able to formally change something. And here you've got, Georgia trash bucket Marjorie Taylor Greene, who says that she's going to start working on bills to do the funding, right? And she's saying things like the FAA and, military and blah, 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 blah. Like they should all be using new maps that list it as the Gulf of America. But guess what? This isn't just about some flight schedules and some military bases. There are a whole mess of government agencies that use maps for their work. This is just half of them. But if you go through this, I just want you to think for a minute. Every printed map, every internet map, every globe, every book, every training manual, everything that's ever been created for any of these agencies would have to be changed and reprinted and altered. The cost of this will be enormous. Let's look through some of these, some of the bigger ones. I love EPA. Like EPA, do you know how many reports they publish? Do you know how many things they have out on the internet that would have maps on it? Do you know how many times they've talked about this particular body of water, especially when we have things like oil spills? Do you know how many printed documents there are and will be from the EPA that lists this as the Gulf of Mexico? We should change the FEMA maps, because certainly we would want them to know where to go. I mean, they might get confused if there's a hurricane. They don't have maps to the new Gulf of America. We would leave it all to the Louisiana Cajun Navy. Oh, wait, hold on. They wouldn't know where to go either, because they've always thought of it as the Gulf of Mexico. And if it's the Gulf of America, they might not realize where to go to help people. But it gets better. It means changing everything that the Census Bureau uses. That's a pretty heavy lift. And here's my favorite, school administrators. So every school, pre-K through 12th grade school in America, every university, every junior college, every trade, every single classroom you would walk into where there was a map on the wall, a globe in the corner, textbooks with maps in it, teaching syllabuses, anything that had maps would need to be reprinted with the new Gulf of America in it. And here's the best part. Even if we do rename it, no one else is required to call it that. There's no rule that says the rest of the world has to agree with it. In fact, there's the United Nations panel that would have to get together and collectively decide as sort of a world that we could rename it, because we don't own it. We don't have the naming rights. It's been called the Gulf of Mexico for 400 years. So if you want to rename it, you got to go through like this kind of worldwide commission who says, well, okay, we all agree, and that's what we will all formally call it. Until then, it's just a bunch of narcissistic fucking Americans doing what they do best, naming shit after themselves because they think it makes them look more powerful. Donald Trump should just turn to his conjoined twin and say, hey, Elon, when you spent $44 billion buying Twitter, how successful was that brand change? Because it's years later and we're all still fucking calling it Twitter. So that's money well spent. And if we're going to change names, can we please just have Marjorie Taylor Greene go by her Native American name, which would be She Who Fucks Men at the Gym? If we're going to change names, like, let's just go for it, right?